Frank Sheeran was an enigma to say the least, especially with the tall stories that many have read in the 2004 book I Heard You Paint Houses by Charles Brand. Many have refuted the work of Brand in saying that Sheeran made up stories about his life, and yet Martin Scorsese chose to follow his dealings with Jimmy Hoffa in the Netflix film The Irishman. While critics and fans have been raving about the film and its craft, some even calling it Scorsese's best yet, there were some hard-to-believe stories from Sheeran's own life that didn't make the cut for the film. Here's a rundown of the 5 riveting Frank Sheeran stories that aren't featured in The Irishman. First up is that of Sheeran wrestling a kangaroo. Apparently, after Sheeran returned from World War II, he struggled to make ends meet and would often sell a pint of blood for $10 in order to keep drinking beer. However, Sheeran once boxed with a kangaroo since there was $100 on offer for anyone who could stay in the ring for 3 rounds. The 6'4" Sheeran fought despite being drained from having just given blood and won the heart of Mary Letty, who later became his wife. However, a Redditor spotted an Easter egg to the story in The Irishman with a framed picture of a man fighting a kangaroo hanging behind Sheeran, played by Robert De Niro in The Office. Next up is the story of how Sheeran managed to dodge the police by wearing a grandmother's disguise. That's right, he apparently had to flee Philadelphia after a shooting broke out in 1967 and there was a warrant for his arrest. But since he had to return to Philly to avoid a flight charge, he had a cop drive him from Delaware while he wore a granny dress and a bonnet so he could return to Philly and turn himself in. The Irishman also leaves out a story of how Sheeran rigged a negotiation between the union chief, Jimmy Hoffa, and the management by spiking their coffees with laxatives. He then asked multiple college students to use the public restrooms at the hotel where the meeting was happening. So when the laxatives kicked in, Sheeran said the management was running around the hotel looking for a toilet that wasn't being used. It was much easier to negotiate against a smaller group, which gave Hoffa the advantage. Another story that involves Joe Pesci's character Russell Bufalino was also relayed by Sheeran in the book, but left out of Scorsese's film. Apparently, Bufalino couldn't stand singer Frank Sinatra, and Sheeran claims, "One night at the 500 Club in Atlantic City, I heard Russell tell Sinatra, 'Sit down or I'll rip out your tongue and stick it in an unmentionable place.'" And finally, one of the many stories left out of The Irishman is of how Jimmy Hoffa was acquitted of a bribery and conspiracy charge thanks to the heavyweight boxing champion Joe Louis. Apparently, Hoffa was facing trial against 4 white and 4 African American jurors, so in order to swing their vote, he managed to get Joe Louis to appear in court as his friend and publicly hug him, turning the opinion in his favor. Incidentally, Joe Louis and Jimmy Hoffa had never met before. So whether or not any of these stories are true, they'd certainly make for entertaining plot embellishments. What do you think? Thanks for watching. If you like this video, be sure to check out all our other videos too, and don't forget to subscribe.